everyone. Welcome to Monaco for the 56th Monte Carlo Television Festival. The best and the brightest in TV are in town, and there's also a competition judging fiction series and TV news. The president of this year's news jury is actor, producer, and political activist Danny Glover. I sat down with the soon-to-be 70-year-old star of Lethal Weapon.
I'm cutting away. See? All done. Rog. Yeah. Grab the cat. Grab the cat.
Thank you.
Danny Glover, hello.
Thank you very much.
Now, we're here at the Monte Carlo Television Festival. You have a very important role here. You're the president of the news jury. What made you want to be part of that jury?
Often, when I've been on festivals, it's either been about documentaries or it's been feature-length films. But this was an opportunity to do something different, to judge material that evolve out of a process that has an immediacy to it. First of all, news, and network news, 24-hour news, and then to watch that material. Some of the material I was familiar with, you know, and some of the reporting I knew about. I had a great time doing that.
Now, there's so many big names that are here from all over the world, but not just from the entertainment industry. Earlier today, I spoke to the Nobel Peace Laureate Rigoberta Menchú, who said Danny Glover is a friend. You got to see her last night, didn't you?
I saw her. She is one of my, what I call, sheroes. I met her over 30 years ago, and it's one of the meetings that I knew of her work from, I think, work that I've been doing around what was happening in Central America, really work that I was doing in the late 70s. And certainly her name rings out for her extraordinary courage and her fight for justice and spirit and everything else.
Now, you've been on the other end of juries as well. In fact, you produced a film that won the top prize in Cannes. I love this film, Uncle Boonmee, Who Can Recall His Past Lives.
Yes.
That movie, why were you drawn to it? Was it because it's such a story about family? It reminded you of your own family?
I thought Uncle Boonmee, when I read the script, was something that my grandmother would want to see. Uncle Boonmee, who's able to recall his past life, who can recall his past life, is something that touch you in some sort of way other than rationally, you know. And I like films that touch you in a way that in some sense provides you another understanding, a spiritual understanding of who we are.
มีหลายอย่างอยู่นอกบ้านเฮาตอนนี้ที่ว่ามันคืออีหยังล่ะวิญญาณกับสมสัตว์ที่มันอดอยาก
Now, you've also gained so much respect as an activist over many, many decades, really getting in there in the trenches, on the picket lines, campaigning. Where do you think that drive to do what's right came from? Is it from your parents?
Well, certainly first my parents, because my parents were active in the labor movement and involved in San Francisco. My mother was the regional president of a very important organization, the Council of Negro Women's. And I just come up at a point in time in life where activism was something that was embraced. So many changes happened in my life, and I've had so many extraordinary opportunities because of the activism that those who had led struggles before me. It comes out of something else that I think is so important. Whatever stage we are in our life, whatever our calling is one of being a citizen. And I consider myself that most important. I was a citizen before I was an actor and before I became, you know, noticed as an actor, you know. Then I have certainly men and women in my life were not only popular in their sense, you know, the first ones, I judged them by who who they were as citizens. And one of those just passed away, Muhammad Ali. When I first discovered for myself Muhammad Ali, I was about 15 years old. And then he did something remarkable for me as a young man when he denounced the war in Vietnam by being a conscious objector. And that's an extraordinary powerful message to my generation.
You actually went on to play U.S. Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall in a movie, a TV movie that was based on those events.
You know,
one of your many, many acting roles. But it's funny, talking to the fans here, you know the one that always comes back is Lethal Weapon.
Yes.
When you think about that time, those 4 movies that you made with Mel Gibson, do you have a favorite memory of perhaps a scene you shot together, a moment when you both realized how big that had become?
I think for me, and I'll say the second one in part, because the second one dealt with the issue of the apartheid. And since I had been involved in the anti-apartheid movement from the mid-'70s, early '70s, 1970s, and some sort of through the work I did in my theatrical background and the great work of the South African playwright Athol Fugard. His plays allowed me, or centered me, or positioned me right in the midst of the anti-apartheid movement, not only as a citizen, but as an artist as well. And that film, because it dealt with that, and because it was banned in South Africa when it came out in 1989, because South Africa was still under the apartheid system, and Mandela was still in jail. So that would always be the signature film for me in that series of movies that I did with Mel.
Stop it, asshole! Roger. Diplomatic community.
I read an interesting thing. Apparently, one of the Lethal Weapons movies is the very first one where we ever see anyone using a cell phone, which I thought was such a great anecdote. Apparently, you were the first person to ever use a cell phone in movie history. Did you know that?
I did not know that. That's something I add to my... You serious?
But I read it somewhere. I don't know if it's true.
God,
but
I never knew. You sure?
I guess the point that I make is your career has spanned so many years, so many decades. You have a big birthday that's coming up.
Number 70.
Is that okay? Can we say that? Congratulations.
Oh, I'm happy about that.
When you look back on your life, your career, your activism, what are you proudest of?
I think I'm proud of being alive at this moment in history. You know, there are other moments where I could have lived, but I couldn't choose another moment. I can't remember another moment I would want to be alive, you know. And from all of it, you know. I live in the same community, the same neighborhood I grew up in. You know, I experienced the civil rights movement as a child. I experienced the various movements in San Francisco, whether they're cultural movements from that time on, you know. I'm just happy to be born in a moment where I can think about Martin Luther King and know who he is. I welcome the thought of Malcolm X, you know. I welcome the thought of Muhammad Ali, or know who Willie Mays was.
Or Barack Obama?
And Barack Obama, you know, and to be just as politically engaged as I am now. I was on the campaign trail for Bernie Sanders, and I was excited about that, just as excited as millennials were, even though I'm a baby boomer. Millennials were about that. So I think more than anything else, when I think about it, which I rarely do think about that, I think about what's the next step. You know, Nelson Mandela, I came at the moment, who would have known when I was 20 years old and read his first writings that I would not only play him in a movie, but I would meet him and he would always consider me as one of his sons.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right, then.
All right.